The Mushroom Fan Club by Elise Gravel. I got this book in the library a couple of years ago, and I was pretty excited about it. It's Elise Gravel does some really nice nonfiction, graphic novel-y kind of looking books, and I wasn't quite sure if anybody would ever read this or check it out. But since we're talking about fungi in science, I thought this would be the perfect book for me to read to you. Um, Kind of long, so I'm just going to get started. And I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. So, Elise Gravel, and this is her daughters. You know what I love? I love walking in the woods, looking for mushrooms with my kids. It's like a treasure hunt that nature just organized for us. You can see there's all kinds of mushrooms. I'm obsessed with bizarre creatures, and mushrooms are certainly strange. They look like aliens from outer space, especially the way she draws them with eyes. Mushrooms are not plants or animals. They are a kingdom of their own, the realm of fungi. Many mushrooms look like the one I've drawn here, but not all of them. They come in many shapes, sizes, and colors. Their smells differ wildly too. Some stink horribly, and others have a delicious perfume. There are some next to my cottage that smell like maple syrup. Parts of the mushroom: the cap, the ring, these tiny little dots are spores, the stalk, the vulva, and the mycelium that grows underneath. When you identify a mushroom, you have to look under its cap. You'll find clues under there. Some have gills that are paper thin blades. There are thousands of different mushrooms like this, including the kinds found at the grocery store. Others have little needles, and some have tiny holes like a sponge. Gills, needles, and holes like a sponge. It's through these various type of underbellies that the mushrooms produce and release spores, which are kind of like seeds, and that's how mushrooms reproduce. So that's how you get more mushrooms, is through these spores. Some mushrooms grow on the grass, others in dead leaves or on rotting wood, or even on living trees. Some are so tiny we can't even see them, and some are as big as baseball fields. I don't know them all. There's too many. There are millions of fungus species around the world. Millions of fungi. And I thought it was interesting that they're not plants or animals. I didn't really know that. Some people know a lot more about mushrooms than I do, and they are called mycologists. I'm no expert. I'm an amateur. I just love looking at mushrooms. The proof that I'm no expert? I draw my mushrooms with eyes. Yeah, and we don't have mouths either, and we can't speak. Mycologist, so that's a scientist that studies mushrooms. But I'm not the only one who likes finding mushrooms. Many animals and bugs like them too. When you walk in the woods, you might encounter some of these wild mycologists. So see some of the animals here that we see around Warren that like to eat mushrooms: snails, bear, deer, squirrels, bugs. Would you like to come for a walk with us? I'll introduce you to some of my mushroom buddies, but first, I'd like you to follow these 2 rules. Number 1, protect their environment. Mushrooms are often friends with the plants in the forest, helping them and many animals survive. So be gentle and don't litter. And try not to pick too many mushrooms. Leave some for the slugs and the squirrels. And, you can always draw a picture of the mushrooms you find or even take a photo. Number 2, do not eat them. Many mushrooms are poisonous. Only a grown-up mycologist knows for certain which ones are safe to eat. We can make you very sick, and even worse. Mushrooms if you eat the wrong mushroom, it could poison you and you could die. Okay, so we are going to, this book has lots of different types of mushrooms in here. And I'm going to be asking you to pick one of the types of mushrooms that you are going to research and draw some pictures of. So as I'm reading to you about different mushrooms, you might want to jot down the name of a mushroom if it sounds interesting. I've got one page that has some crazy names of mushrooms on it. You might want to read, you might want to take that type of mushroom. So this one's called a bolete. If you find a mushroom with sponge-like holes under its cap, it might be a bolete. There are many species of boletes, and some are delicious. You can find dried boletes in the grocery store. Some boletes turn blue when you touch them. It's very pretty. Others have a slimy cap, like a slug, and some have spots that look like dragon scales. Bugs like boletes a lot, so these mushrooms are often homes to hundreds of tiny worms. Chanterelle, the chanterelle. The chanterelle is one of the first mushrooms I learned to identify. They're very pretty, bright orange, and they often grow with a bunch of friends. They're easy to recognize because their caps look like a trumpet. Instead of gills, they have folds like an old person's wrinkles. Some mushrooms look like chanterelles are very toxic, poison. They are called jack-o'-lantern mushrooms. You could write that one down if you want to research that. Jack-o'-lantern mushrooms. It's a pretty name, don't you think? The main difference between them is jack-o'-lantern mushrooms have real gills instead of wrinkles. Morel. Ah, morels. They're so cute. They look like an alien's brain. I love morels. When I find some, I jump all over the place and squeal. It's silly, but I can't help myself. It's because I don't find them very often. Morels like to grow where there have been forest fires. They love the ashes. They're hard to see because they look like dead leaves and that they grow on, or like pine cones. They're hide and seek champions. My daughter's favorite mushrooms are polypores. These are hard mushrooms. These hard mushrooms often grow on tree trunks or roots and can get pretty big. My oldest daughter collects them. Once we found one as big as a plate. These mushrooms are cool because you can find them even in the wintertime. And I think there's a picture of her here with a polypore in the back. The false morel. Here's another guy that looks like a brain. Its Latin name is Gyromitra. Since it looks a bit like a morel, sometimes it's called a false morel. When you touch it, it feels cold and rubbery, and it's hollow on the inside. If I were a bug, I'd like my house to be inside a Gyromitra. Gyromitra, if you're writing that one down. Gyromitra, the false morel. Some mushrooms produce a liquid that look like milk when you cut them. We call these lactarius mushrooms. Lactarius mushrooms. The lactarius indigo is special because the milk it produces is bright blue. I've never found any, but I keep looking. I think they're quite rare. If you see one, you're lucky. You'll be jealous and insist you take me mushroom hunting with you next time. The puffball. The puffball is an interesting specimen. When it's young, it's all white and smooth, like an egg or a golf ball. Then as it grows up, it turns yellow or brown or gray, and then something funny happens. If you step on it, poof, it bursts into a cloud of smoke, like a cartoon fart. Elegant, isn't it? It's their way of freeing their spores. Some of them are huge like basketballs, and we call them giant puffballs. I'm taking a little break from showing facts to draw my daughter stepping on puffballs. It's too fun. I know I said not to destroy mushrooms, but no need to worry about the puffballs. They like it when you step on them. It makes their spores go everywhere, which helps them to reproduce. Coral mushroom. I really like this one. It looks something that would grow at the bottom of the sea. That's why they're called coral mushrooms. Some are gray or white or pink, but this one is my favorite. I've seen very big ones. Instead of a cap, it has many fingers that point to the sky. They're very, very fragile, so be gentle with them. The fly agaric. The fly agaric is a very pretty mushroom. I find them all the time. Their caps are red or yellow, depending on where in the world you find them. Illustrators, like me, love to draw them in picture books. They're so handsome. When they grow, the fly or agaric comes out of something that looks like an egg. We call it fly or agaric because a long time ago, people would crush them into milk to repel flies. They're pretty, but don't eat them. They're toxic. And this is the kind of mushroom that's in Mario Brothers, right? I think. The dog stinkhorn. These guys are the king of stinkers. They smell like dog poop. The smell is so strong that sometimes you smell them before you even see them. They stink like this to attract flies to help them disperse their spores. I've seen some in the park near my house, and believe me, you do not want to eat them unless you're a fly, of course. Oh, yummy. It smells so good. Destroying angel. This one says, how do you like my little skirt? Ooh, Amanita virosa. Every time I see one, I get chills because it's one of the most toxic mushrooms. It can even be deadly. It's sometimes called a destroying angel. To me, it looks like a ghost. So this one, don't touch it at all. All right? As I was saying earlier, there are many species of mushrooms. I wish I could tell you about all of them, but that would be a very long book. Instead, I'll tell you about the most beautiful mushroom names I've come across. So just listen to those names. How poetic. I think I'll take a picture of this page and post it on Google Classroom so you could see it. All right, so here are the names of lots of mushrooms. Ready? Pink disco, drab tooth, golden navel, the pretender, dewdrop dapperling, bug Sputnik, ink cap, cinnamon jelly belly, bird's nest fungi, wet rot, gassy webcap. All the names of mushrooms. Funeral bell, jack-o'-lantern, lion shield, bitter poison pie, cat dapperling, bald knight, witch's butter, mealy oyster, vampire's bane, cabbage parachute, potato earthball, plums and custard, dead mole's fingers, hot lips, elbow patch crust, tiger's eye, King Alfred's cake, drumstick truffle club, devil's finger, powdery piggyback, turquoise elf cup, and whiskery milk cap. So lots of interesting names of mushrooms you could look up. When we come back from our walks, we put our treasures on the table and look at our books to try to identify them all. It's hard. So many of them look alike. So, did you enjoy our treasure hunt? Would you like to find out more about mushrooms? There are many books about fungi where you'll discover wonders I don't even know about. Check them out at your local library. And don't forget to take lots of walks in the woods. Have fun now. Mushroom facts. In case I still haven't convinced you that mushrooms are cool, there are about 30 species of mushrooms that glow in the dark. The super mushroom from Mario is the poisonous fly or agaric. That one. Mushrooms grow better where lightning has recently struck. This mushroom, called sulfur shelf, grows on trees and tastes almost exactly like fried chicken. I don't think I want to try that. In Oregon, there's a mushroom that is 2,400 years old. It's mycelium, that's the underground part of the mushroom that grows on the forest floor, covers the surface area bigger than a soccer field. Wow, it's destroying thousands of trees. And mushrooms can be used to make bread, beer, medication, fabric, wool dye, bricks, fake leather, cheese, and so much more. Things that have happened to me while I've gone mushroom hunting. I found a moose skull, scared a snake, came face to face with a porcupine, found a giant bear poop, met a baby deer, walked on a wasp's nest, ouch, walked into poison ivy, double ouch, met nice people, made new friends. Mushroom hunting is a big adventure. Watch out for poison ivy. So I challenge you to take a walk in the woods near your home this weekend and look for some mushrooms. Maybe you could take a picture of it if you find some, and you could draw it and bring it into school. I would really like to see that. For your assignment, you are going to pick one of the mushrooms from this book that we just read, and you're going to do some research on it. You're going to write me a couple sentences about it, and then you're going to draw the mushroom. And I want a nice picture. All right, we'll talk about that in just a moment.